I'm the Lonely Necron, and welcome to my basement. So a little while ago, I had the drukhari go up against the Night Lords in the Fairy Kingdom Castle setting, and kind of nostalgic for me. So to continue on that, I figured I'd have the entirety of the current put together drukhari go against a slightly equal amount of necrons, kind of in another nostalgia happiness kind of way, on the old cemetery layout. So this will be the cemetery setting for the slaughter, I suppose. Alright, so this is all of the currently assembled Dark Eldar. 1,700 points, I think. 1,705, something like that. Overall led by this Archon, who has a Husk Blade and a Blast Pistol. There's also a Succubus, who has a Agonizer, and like the Archaic Glaive or something like that. We got 3 groups of 10 Kabbalite warriors. This grouping just has 9 splinter rifles, and Sybarite has a power sword and a blast pistol. This one has 7 splinter rifles, a blaster, a shredder. Sybarite has a blast pistol and a agonizer. This one has 6 splinter rifles, a dark lance, a blaster, a shredder, and then Sybarite has a power sword and a splinter pistol. Got 2 groups of 5 incubi, 3 reavers, 2 venoms, 2 raiders, 10 witches, 2 groups of 5 scourges. Talos is kind of hiding, and the Razorwing jet fighter. So the scourges will be circling overhead. The 2 unpainted Kabbalite warrior squads will be in the raiders, and then the incubi will be in the venoms. I'll try and do as much long range combat as possible without having to engage, at least until the incubi can get in there and do some fun things. So yeah, that's what we got for Dark Eldar. Alright, so here's what we have for today's Necron experience. Led by overall an Overlord who has a Void Size, a Resorb I'll probably forget about using. Also got a Lord who also has a Resorb that I will also forget about. Jesus, 2 in the same game I'll definitely forget about using. It looks like a Cryptek, but really it's a Technomancer. So we've got 2 groups of 10 of the new warriors with the Gauze Reapers, and then 10 immortals with Tesla Carbines. 2 groups of 3 of the Scorpek Destroyers. 3 Tomb Blades with the twin Tesla Carbines. These guys also have Shield Vanes and Nebula Scopes. 3 individual Locust Heavy Destroyers, 2 Enmitic Exterminators, and 1 Gauze Destructor. 2 Annihilation Barges, 1 with a Gauze Cannon, 1 with a Tesla Cannon. 3 Hexmark Destroyers, and a Doomsday Arc. The Hexmark Destroyers will be hanging out in their Hexmark Teleportarium place. I don't know, whatever weird non-webway, non-warp oubliette kind of place that necrons go. I had thought about bringing a Catan, but I don't think it's. I think a Catan would be overkill. So this should be enough. All right, so I'm gonna roll out deployment, reset up the board, and yeah, this should be a nice, good return to the old days back before I had a channel. When I was just actually playing by myself. So yeah, good times. Alright, so the drukhari won their deployment roll-off, and they chose this side. Got the raiders on the ends. The two venoms on this far left side with the talos in front. The reavers to the left, I guess the right of them. Witches and the succubus. And the ground-bound Kabbalites and the Archon. And then the Razorwing. Everything else, the incubi and the venoms. The other Kabbalites are in the raiders. And the scourges are circling around overhead. Alright, so that put the necrons on this side. Doomsday Ark up on top with all three of the Locust Heavy Destroyers. Got one group of the warriors here, along with the Lord and the Overlord in the back. Another group of warriors, and the Cryptek. And then one of the Annihilation Barges, Tomb Blades in the far back of that. On this side, you got the Immortals up on this little ledge thing. Annihilation Barge, and then the two groups of Scorpex. I said that the blue guy back there is a Cryptek, but he's a Technomancer. I didn't make the switch from 8th and 9th when it comes to Crypteks very well, because they look like Crypteks, you know. Just never got around to buying the actual Technomancer model since I have 3 of the Crypteks, so I will work hard at remembering to call it a Technomancer. Unfortunately, the necrons failed to steal, so we'll start this experience with drukhari and movement. Alright, so all the vehicles and the talos just moved forward, and then all the infantry advanced forward. Alright, I always lament about how drukhari don't have suckers. I'll do it this one time, and hopefully not any other time. And instead we'll do some drukhari shooting. So the Razorwing was the only thing that was able to shoot. It fired a necrotoxin missile and managed to kill one of these Necron warriors over here. Definitely too far away to charge at anybody. So that'll make it the Necron turn. Alright, so since they're warriors that the Technomancer is reanimating, they would have gotten D3 back. Only lost one, so back up to full. Well, as full as they were when they started, I guess. The warriors both advanced forward. The Tomb Blades and the Annihilation Barge advanced forward. The Locust Heavy Destroyers just kind of moved forward. Lord, Overlord, and Technomancer just moved forward. Doomsday Ark will probably never move. Gonna keep the Immortals back for this round. The Scorpex and yeah, pretty much everything advanced forward. Heavy Destroyers did not. Doomsday Ark did not. Don't really feel the need to bring in the Hexbarks just yet. Haven't even really had a point of contact yet. So, the Necron shooting phase. The best phase of them all. Alright, so the Doomsday Ark and the 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers were the only ones within range. The two Locust Heavy Destroyers with the Enminic Exterminators killed 8 of the witches. And then the Gauze Destructor one shot at the Razor Wing but didn't do anything to it. The Doomsday Arc was a little bit more successful-ish, you know. He did a couple points of damage to the Razor Wing. Enough to let it know it's still alive. And then in morale, I was super lucky, rolled super low, and only one of the witches ran away, leaving just the Hecatrix to go it alone with the succubus. That's fun. Well, with all of that being said, that'll make it the drukhari turn, so here's some awesomeness, I think. Coming, yeah. So, yeah, movement, sorry. Alright, so the Venoms with the Incubi inside have moved on up closer here. The Reavers got to the base of the hill. The Razor Wing is tilted a little bit and is heading over towards the Tomb Blades. This raider moved up to within 2 feet of the Annihilation Barge. The Succubus and the Hecatrix have both advanced forward, as have the Archon and the ground-bound Cabalites. Talus just moved up, and the other raider moved within 24 inches of the Scorpex over here. Well, that'll take us on over to Dark Eldar shooting. It was an epic firefight, well, one-sided anyway, from over here. All the Cabalites standing up in this thing fired out at the Annihilation Barge and didn't do anything. The Raider fired at the Annihilation Barge and didn't do anything. Razorwing fired at the Annihilation Barge and didn't do anything. Everything over here with a gun shot at the Scorpex, and ultimately it was the Venoms that did a couple points of damage to one of them. And that's the only damage that was incurred. Necron dice are definitely saving well tonight. Alright, so still not close enough for a drukhari charge, so we'll head to the Necrons for their movement. The Scorpex regained a health from living metal. The front Scorpex just moved forwards, the back one's advanced. This Annihilation Barge moved forward. All 3 of the Locust Heavy Destroyers moved forward as far as they could. These warriors advanced down onto the little cemetery plot thing here. Overlord advanced to the edge. Lord advanced down off of the hill. These warriors advanced up behind the Heavy Destroyer, and the Cryptek followed them. I remembered. This Annihilation Barge is just hanging out. Tomb Blades moved up. And because I don't know how long it's going to take these Cabalites to get up to where I'm at, I dropped a Hexmark behind them who can hopefully wipe them out. We'll find out because it's time for Necron shooting. The best phase. The Necrons just had a really ridiculously good shooting phase. So the Hexmark killed 8 of the Cabalites. This guy with the Enminic Exterminator killed off 2 of the Reavers. The other guy with the Enminic Exterminator killed off the last regular Cabalite. This guy, unfortunately, the guy on the end, didn't do much of anything. Doomsday Arc did 6 damage to the Razor Wing here. Tomb Blades did a little bit of damage to the Raider on the far end. And then the Annihilation Barge just finished it off. It did explode. It did actually kill off 4 of the Cabalites that were roaming around in it. That was super awesome. Alright, charge phase. Charge phase is going to be these front Scorpex into both Venoms. This is going to be crazy. Alright, so these Scorpex absolutely made their charge. The Venoms did really well in Overwatch and managed to actually kill off one of the Scorpex. That was sad. It did a couple of points of damage to one of the Venoms. The Venoms didn't do anything at all to them. I want to say it's a Sybarite that's the leader of the Carbolytes. But yeah, 9 of his dudes died. He has a leadership 9. He was running away. It didn't matter what I rolled. Alright, well, the board looks a whole lot different than it did a second ago. So, time for the Dark Eldar to do something amazing. So, movement. Alright, so the Hecatrix and the Succubus have advanced way forward towards the Tomb Blades. The Archon and the Cobblites that came out of the Raider. The Archon has advanced towards them. The Cobblites just moved over a little bit, also towards the Archon. Okay, the Venoms dropped out their Incubi cargo and fell back. The Talos moved up behind the Incubi. This Raider is just going to hang out here and not do anything. I mean, it'll shoot when its time comes, but it's not going to move. The Arena Champion has moved up here to take on the Locust Heavy Destroyer. The Razorwing has flown up here. And a group of Scourges has landed behind the Lord. Try and start taking the backline fight to the Necrons. I think that's everybody. It looks like it. I don't want to forget a unit. Okay, yep, so. That'll take us to the Dark Eldar shooting phase. Still a lot of that on the board, too, so. Here's to some dead Necrons. It's kind of unfortunate that so many Necron thingies count as vehicles. Because the poison doesn't work on vehicles at all, really. Only on 6, I think. Which is pretty terrible. That being said, Talos did a little bit of damage to the Scorpex. And the Scourges did a point of damage to the Lord. Other than that, it was another one of those Halo bullets, not a lot of wounding or hitting or anything. Not quite Stormtrooper aim, just really good Necron saves. Alright, so charging. These two groups of Incubi are definitely going to charge into these Scorpex. This is actually the battle that I was most looking forward to out of this whole experience, so I just really like the Incubi. And I really like the Scorpex, so yeah, good times. So, both sets of Incubi very obviously made their charges. The first group of Incubi, the painted ones, actually killed off the Scorpex on their own without the Claybex having to do anything, so yeah, that was kind of anticlimactic a little bit, but super, super fucking awesome. That's why I love Incubi the most. Alright, so yeah. That'll make it the Necron turn. Movement. So, at the beginning of the phase, the Lord regains the health from living metal. Both he and the Overlord started moving over here towards the Scourges. The Warriors moved down, they advanced down off of the hill. Technomancer just moved up behind to where they were originally. These Warriors have just moved out closer towards the Razorwing. Heavy destroyers are just going to hang out where they are. Annihilation bars not moving. Two blades got closer to the Kabbalites. The second group of Scorpex is moving up towards the Incubi, hopefully with better design in mind. Annihilation bars just hanging out. This hex mark has moved forward as far as he could. Another hex mark has popped in behind the Kabbalites and the Archon. And then the final hex mark has popped in down here at the extreme corner. Well, it's not the extreme corner, but it's kind of the edge of the board away from these scourges. Alright. Well, at the end of movement phase, we normally have a Catan phase, but it wouldn't be fair to drukhari to bring Catan since they can't have psychers. So, Necron shooting, the best phase. The death of a lot of drukhari phase. I should start using that one. Alright, so a whole lot of ridiculous things happened, but I think the most ridiculous thing was that the warriors managed to kill out the Razorwing. I mean, they only did 3 points of damage to it, but it only had 2 health. So yeah. The heavy destroyer here killed off the arena champion. It took everything that the Annihilation Barge had, but it managed to kill off the painted Incubi. What else? Oh yeah. This poor guy. It took both of these heavy destroyers and the yellow hexmark to kill the venom that used to be over here. This hexmark and both of these two blades killed off the Kabbalites. The other Annihilation Barge managed to finally kill off the Hecatrix. And that hexmark way over there did kill off the Scourges, even though these guys were moving over there to charge into them. Oh well. So charge phase is going to be these Scorpex into the Incubi. So I feel like the Necron decks might have failed me a lot here because I rolled Snake Eyes on that, and that sure was not enough to make the charge. That's sad. Alright, well, that'll make it the Dark Eldar turn. For movement. Alright, so the Incubi and the Talos have all moved up closer to the Scorpex. The intention of not failing a charge roll. The Raider with the Kabbalites in it is just going to hang out here. The Archon has moved closer to the Tomb Blades. Succubus has moved closer to these Warriors. And the Venom, the surviving Venom, has moved over here to try and provide some fire support. And the Scourges have come down in this narrow little line between the Tomb Blades and the Hexmark. I got some complicated hopes for the rest of this battle that maybe the Incubi and the Talos can do something super awesome with the Raider and the Kabbalites backing them up. Really hoping that something awesome can happen over here. So, let's see if the Dark Eldar can do some softening up with shooting first. Okay, so the Scourges dumped everything they had into the Tomb Blades. Nothing happened because they're vehicles. The Venom dumped everything it had into the Warriors over here. They saved real well. The Raider, the Kabbalites on the Raider, and the Talos all dumped everything they had into the Scorpex, doing 2 points of damage. Alright. Charge phase then. The Incubi and the Talos are going to charge into the Scorpex destroyers here. And yeah. she just moved up, so screw it. I guess I'll charge her into the warriors. Yeah. No, that's a lie. Yeah, no, screw it. Into the warriors she goes. Alright, so everybody made their charges. The succubus definitely took some damage in Overwatch. On this side, the incubi and the talos together managed to kill off one of the scorpex. The scorpex managed to kill off two of the incubi. So the succubus did take some damage in Overwatch and did manage to kill off one of the warriors, and they did not club her to death in return. Okay, well, that'll take us to the necron turn. Okay, so necrons. Alright, so the scorpex regained a health. These guys fell back away from combat. The warriors over here also fell back. The hexmark back there at the back just kind of moved forward a little bit. The Lord and the Overlord advanced forward. The Immortals advanced forward out of their area. This hexmark crossed through the gate and it started headed over towards these scourges. I think that's really all that happened for movement. Alright, well, we're going to get into necron shooting. I really was working on wiping out Drukhari this turn, and that just really didn't happen. So this back on the hill hexmark managed to wipe out the scourges. This guy did a little bit of damage to the venom, but the tomb blades were able to finish off the venom, and it exploded, so it did a little bit of damage to the Archon. Yeah, so the hexmark back here killed off the succubus. It took everything from the Annihilation Barge. I'm looking right at it and I can't even think of its name. It took everything from the Annihilation Barge to wipe out the Archon because of the Shadow Field or whatever. That 2-up invulnerable save. Yeah, it took a lot. So, over here, I took the Annihilation Barge and this Enmitic Exterminator to kill up the Talos. And then this Enmitic Exterminator took out the Incubi. And unfortunately, the Doomsday Arc just did not hit anything at all. It really sucks when you roll twos to hit. No happiness there. So we're too far away to charge, and the only thing left alive for Drukhari is this Raider with all of its Cobbleites still inside. So it is their turn. Certainly not moving it. I'm definitely going to shoot with everything inside of it, though. Still doing Dark Eldar shooting phase. Alright, well, this is the squad of Cobbleites that has a Dark Lance in it, so between all the Cobbleites and the Raider itself, they did manage to kill off one of the Scorpex and slightly damage another one. These guys are not going to charge, so that'll make it the Necron turn. So yeah, movement. Alright, so the Scorpex regained a health, putting him back up to full from living metal. The Locust Heavy Destroyers are just consolidated a little bit closer to the corner here. This Hexmark got a lot closer to the Raider. And that's really all the movement that I feel I need to do. kind of putting all of my eggs in the basket of the stuff that's over here being able to wipe out this raider. Because I'm hoping that here in Necron shooting we can do that. So I guess we'll see. Alright, well it took pretty much, well, it didn't take very much. It took everything that was in range to kill off the raider and then kill off all the Kabbalites. The Hexmark, the Annihilation Barge, the closest heavy destroyer managed to kill off the raider itself. And then the other Enmitic Exterminator, the God's Destructor, and the Doomsday Arc managed to kill off all of the Kabbalites. It was kind of a hard... I can't believe I had to use stuff that did 6 damage to kill something that does d6 damage to kill stuff that only has 1 wound. That it came down to that. I mean, it was a hard-fought battle. The drukhari definitely put up a fight. Perhaps if they had better shooting weapons, they might have done better. Perhaps if they had more wounds. Perhaps if they didn't have 3 toughness. I think that's the main one. I still like playing with them, though. I think that when I put them up against other stuff that is not made of metal and mostly vehicles, they'll probably do better. But I mean, this was a decently sized grouping, 1,700 odd points of drukhari, so yeah. But I mean, again, it's like a nostalgia thing for me. It's been so long. I just really, really like the Dark Eldar. It's the aesthetic and the storyline and the lore and whatnot. Even the whole Sinesh thing and them not being able to do psychers. I mean, we all have our crosses to bear. I guess the drukhari make other people bear the cross, though, and then they enjoy that, and then they make it bear some more. Yeah. So Necrons win this. Alright, so if you made it to the end of the video, I do appreciate it. This was certainly a interesting video to film. I guess I expected more. I expected you drukhari to do better. Yeah, the toughness thing, I don't know. That's the thing to ponder over while I think about it. drukhari, need to buy more transports, I think. That's a thought, I suppose. Either way, thanks for putting up with my ramblings, and have a wonderful day.